Hello, DMFF here, and before we start today's video, I want to shout out my patrons. And I have two of them. My two VIP DMFFers are Kais0 and Kmel3170, my own wife. Thank you so much for the support. It means so much to me and helps me keep creating all these wonderful videos that you all enjoy. If you want to support me as well, go ahead and check out my Patreon, which will be found in the link down in the description down below. Also, while you're at it, why not subscribe? Hit that like button and ding that bell so then you can be notified of my future videos upcoming. Anyway, thank you so much to all of you, including all of you, the viewers. Without any of you, I would not have this channel. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video, and I hope you all have a great day. I just want to preface this video with, I know I don't normally post things like this to my channel. However, I have shared this story on multiple Reddits in the past when it comes to spooky things, and they have made their way onto various videos that, you know, do readings of these stories. And I just figured that I would post it to my own channel. And this is my own account. This is something that I have witnessed myself. And I'm about to go into probably the creepiest / scariest moment of my life. And it happened in the summer of 2006. And now we shall begin. I used to go to camp with my dad at a seasonal campground from 2005 to 2007 in upstate New York in the middle of Adirondack forests and about a 20-minute drive from the closest town. It is now an agricultural farm and closed for unknown reasons. Anyway, families would bring their campers here and just leave them yearly, obviously with a yearly fee. We were one of those families that did this. Luckily, there were other teens there around this time, and we all really hit it off. We ranged from 13 to 16 years old within those years. This story takes place in the summer of 2006. A few of my camp friends and I were bored around 1 p.m. one day, so we decided to take a hike into the woods that were behind all the campsites. We'll call my friends Jan, Bridget, Helen, and Aster. There were some well-traveled trails not far in, but we had already walked them numerous times. We decided to cut across the trails and go deeper into the woods. Eventually, we ended up at an uphill, 30-foot wide clearing that had what appeared to be a car to the right in the distance. Aster immediately sprints to the car and exclaims that it is indeed a very old, very rusted and abandoned car. The rest of us walked to our very enthusiastic friend. I remember feeling something was very off about that car and requested that we all get away from it. Aster laughs and jokingly says, "It could be rigged with bombs." Bridget hit him in the arm and yells at him, "Shut the fuck up and get away from that car. Who knows what could be inside it?" Odd, I thought to myself. Maybe she feels the same way as I do. We start to walk past the car, upward toward what looked like a larger clearing. Helen grabbed my right arm and walked beside me, seemingly terrified. Me being about 15 at the time, I welcomed her clinging to my arm and didn't really notice her terror. As we reached the large clearing, the ground flattened. Directly in front of us, there is a pond that is completely still. To the left of us, there's a yellow, 2-story house that seems to be abandoned. This clearing is completely surrounded by the rest of the woods. Upon seeing this, I remember the feeling of dread washing over me. Meanwhile, Aster and Jan are running toward the house. Bridget, Helen, and I all call out to them and told them to come back and not go near that house. Instead, they noticed an open window, and they both climbed inside. As soon as Bridget saw them doing this, she yelled out, "Fine, if you two want to fuck in some creepy house, be my guest." Her scream seemed to fall flat with no echo. almost like it was blocked and couldn't make it to the house. It was eerie. Bridget finally looked over at Helen and I. Sounding defeated, she said, "Come on, let's just go back to camp. This place is fucked up." We concur and start to head back toward the downward, smaller clearing when we hear what sounds like Jan's scream. We look back to see Aster and Jan are already out of the house and almost to us. They are both whiter than freshly bleached sheets and are motioning for us to leave. The hike back to camp was pretty uneventful, but Aster and Jan refused to tell us what they saw in there. Aster was still trying to act silly and cool, but he kept glancing behind us. Jan didn't say a word the entire time. We got back to camp, and it was like 5:30 p.m. It really didn't feel like we were gone for that long. Whole thing was weird. We all agreed we'd meet up later that night after we ate and showered, etc. Later that night, around 10:30 p.m., the same group of us all met up near the registration building because it had a light similar to a streetlight. We decided to head down into a field that was at the entrance of the campground beside the dirt road leading from the road back to camp. It was a new moon that night, and we could see the stars more clearly than ever before. It was the brightest I have ever personally seen them. We all exchanged spooky stories in that dark field for quite some time. For some inexplicable reason, all 5 of us stood up at the same time and began to walk back to the dirt road heading back to camp. As we reached the light by the registration office, we all then simultaneously turned around and the light above us flickers out. We all see a tall, bipedal figure moving in the field we were just in. It moved across the field quickly, yet silently. Chills went up and down my spine, and it felt like the cold was trying to reach into my brain itself. The figure was darker than darkness itself, and appeared to be taller than all of us, hunched, and almost appeared to have spikes protruding from it in some way. We were frozen. None of us moved at all until the light above us suddenly came back on. The figure was gone, but the unnatural cold still for a summer night. We all ran to our respective camps. Fast forward to winter 2009. I was telling an ex-girlfriend of mine, let's call her Kitty, about the above story. She is the type of girl that says that she's very sensitive to paranormal events and is always intrigued about them as opposed to being afraid most of the time. She somehow convinces me that we need to go to the camp I used to go to, but it has been closed now, that the agricultural farm that I mentioned above. I decided to drive her and I up there one night in my 2000 Buick Century Limited. Mind you, this car was a beast and could make it through snow with ease due to the really nice traction control system and winter tires. We arrived at 10:30 p.m., and the dirt road isn't plowed out. No surprise. I wasn't worried and decided to drive in anyway. My car is a champ and is going through just fine. I am passing the registration building and get that same feeling of dread I felt long ago on that day at that house. The engine cuts. The car's power is gone. The car refuses to start. I look over at my ex and she's staring straight ahead. They're looking at us. What the actual fuck? I try to start the car again and it starts normally, but my traction control is no longer working and the time has been reset to 12 a.m. The car is spinning the tires somehow. We're still stuck. My headlights were on, and I happened to look at the trees and see multiple of the same figures my camp friends and I saw, running between the trees in the distance, and my blood went cold. I yelled, "Fuck this shit. I'm getting us the fuck out of here." I turned the car off, and then started again. Traction control light is gone, and I'm able to move the car. I slam it into reverse and reverse down the dirt road back to the main road that will head back into civilization. I slam it and drive, and the supercharger in that baby was one of the sweetest and most relieving sounds I had heard that night. The drive back has the forest on the same side of the road as the camp pretty much for about 10 of the 20-mile trip down back to town. My ex is staring out the window. Out of nowhere, she mutters something quietly. I tell her I can't hear her and ask if she's all right. She doesn't look at me, but I'm able to make out what she says this time. They're following us. They want us. They're the most evil thing I have ever felt, and they want us to go into the house with them. I tell her that it's going to be okay and that we'll be back into civilization and safety soon. I tell her to stop looking out the window and just focus on clearing her mind. We made it back into town, and I went into the closest gas station that was open and grabbed water and a snack for both my ex and I. I asked the clerk what time it was because both our phones were dead, and I wanted to reset the clock in my car. It's currently 3:49 a.m. You sure are out early. I just nodded and paid for my things. I brought my ex to my place so she wouldn't get in trouble for getting in so late, since she lived with her mom. We never spoke of it again, and broke up about a month later. I have told others about this story, and I have had many tell me to bring them there. I refuse to bring them, or even tell them where this place might be. Nothing can explain the weird things in that place, and I shudder to this very day, still thinking about it.